The stars had always been full of life. Thousands of species lived among them, building cities on distant worlds, trading across the empty void, and sometimes making war upon each other. The Galactic Concord kept records of every known civilization, from the oldest empires to the youngest species just learning to reach beyond their home planets. Earth was in that second category. The Concord's observers had watched humanity for 300 years, taking notes, making reports, and ultimately deciding that these strange creatures were not ready to join the galactic community. Humans were classified as pre-contact primitives, a polite way of saying they were too young, too violent, and too fractured to matter. Their little blue planet was marked for formal contact in another 2 centuries, once they had grown up a bit. Ambassador Valshen had read those reports once, long ago, during her training at the Diplomatic Academy. She remembered thinking how sad it was that the humans fought among themselves so much. Her own people, had achieved peace centuries ago. They had built a civilization based on art, philosophy, and gentle trade. They believed that kindness would always win in the end. They had been wrong. Stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Gentle Dawn, and watched the damage reports scroll across her screen. The ship was dying. Its engines sputtered and failed. Its shields flickered like candles in a storm. Behind her, 2 more diplomatic vessels limped along, carrying the last survivors of her world. The was gone. The Dominion had come without warning, their black ships falling from the sky like a plague of locusts. They had no military to speak of. They had believed in peace. They had trusted that the Galactic Concord would protect them. The Concord had sent messages of concern. They had called for emergency meetings. They had debated and discussed while the burned cities and killed millions. By the time anyone agreed to send help, there was nothing left to save. Had escaped with 3 ships and 3,000 survivors. That was all that remained of a civilization that had existed for 10,000 years. 3,000 souls, packed into vessels that were never meant for long journeys, running on engines that grew weaker by the hour. And they were still hunting them. Tactical officer, a young male named, looked up from his console with fear in his eyes. Ambassador, I'm detecting 7 contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Configuration matches hunter-killer vessels. Felt her heart sink. She had known this moment would come. She had prayed it would not, but prayers meant nothing to the. How long until they reach us? She asked, keeping her voice calm for the sake of her crew. At their current speed, approximately 4 hours. 4 hours. That was all the time her people had left. The nearest Concord patrol was 6 days away. She had sent messages begging for help, but no one could reach them in time. The Concord's bureaucracy had killed her world, and now it would kill the survivors too. She thought of the children sleeping in the cargo holds below. She thought of the elders who had already seen so much death. She thought of all the hopes and dreams packed into these 3 fragile ships. Open a channel, she said quietly. Universal distress frequency, all bands. Hesitated. Ambassador, there is no one close enough to help us. The Concord cannot. I know what the Concord cannot do. His voice was sharp and she immediately regretted it. The young officer was just as scared as she was. Open the channel, perhaps someone will hear, perhaps someone will remember us. The channel opened with a soft chime, took a deep breath and spoke into the void. This is Ambassador Valshen of the diplomatic fleet. We are 3 vessels carrying civilian refugees from our destroyed. We are being pursued by Dominion hunter-killers and have no means of defense. Our engines are failing. Our shields are nearly gone. We are requesting immediate assistance from any vessel within range. Please. There are 3,000 of us. Many are children. If anyone can hear this message, we need help. She paused, feeling the weight of her words. We are sending our coordinates. We have approximately 4 hours before they reach us. If no help comes, we will be destroyed. This is our final message. Please, if anyone can hear us, please help. She closed the channel and stood in silence. The bridge crew watched her, looking for hope, but she had none to give them. The Conquered had taught her that the universe was full of good beings, that cooperation and kindness would always triumph. But they had proven that lesson false. The universe was also full of monsters, and sometimes the monsters won. 11 minutes later, her communications console lit up. Stared at it, not understanding. A response. From where? The nearest Conquered system was days away. There was nothing else in this sector except empty space and a small yellow star with a single inhabited planet. Earth. But that was impossible. The humans were primitives. Their fastest ships took years to cross the distances between stars. They had nothing that could help, nothing that could fight, nothing that could possibly make a difference. The message decoded on her screen, and read it 3 times before she believed it. Vessels, this is the United Earth Defense Coalition. We have received your distress call and are dispatching forces to your location. Estimated arrival time, 2 hours. Hold your position. Help is coming. Looked up from his console, his face twisted with confusion. Ambassador, I do not understand. Earth is listed as a pre-contact world. They should not have the technology to intercept our transmission, let alone respond to it. And 2 hours. That is impossible. The distances involved would require. I know what it would require, whispered, still staring at the message. Something was very wrong with the Conquered's records. Something was very, very wrong with everything they thought they knew about humanity. But for the first time in weeks, Ambassador Valshen felt something strange stirring in her chest. It was small and fragile, like a flower growing through cracked stone. It was hope. She looked at her crew, at their confused and frightened faces, and she made a decision. Maintain our course. Conserve what power we have left. Ambassador asked, do you believe this message is real? Thought about it. She thought about the burning cities of her. She thought about the Conquered's empty promises. She thought about everything she had been taught about the universe and how much of it had turned out to be lies. I believe, she said slowly, that we have nothing left to lose by hopping. Behind them, the hunter-killers grew closer. Ahead of them, the void stretched empty and cold. And somewhere in the darkness, something was coming. Deep beneath the frozen ground of Earth's Arctic Circle, Fleet Admiral sat in his command center and watched the universe unfold on a wall of screens. The room was buried under 2 kilometers of ice and stone, protected by shields that could stop a nuclear blast, hidden from every sensor the galaxy had ever invented. This was the heart of humanity's greatest secret. The United Earth Defense Coalition had existed for 150 years. It had been born in the ashes of the last war, when humanity finally stopped fighting itself and looked up at the stars. What they saw terrified them. The galaxy was not a friendly place. The Galactic Conquered spoke of peace and cooperation, but their actions told a different story. Species that were weak got conquered. Species that were different got enslaved. Species that had something valuable got stripped of it. The strong survived. The weak became footnotes in history books. Earth's leaders had made a choice. They would not be weak. They would not be footnotes. So they smiled at the stars and pretended to be primitive. They let the Conquered's observers watch their petty nations squabble over tiny patches of ground. They made sure to seem divided, fractured, and harmless. And while the galaxy looked down on them with pity and contempt, humanity worked in secret. They captured Conquered probes and studied their technology. They intercepted alien communications and learned their languages. They recruited the greatest minds on Earth and gave them unlimited resources and a single mission: make humanity strong enough to survive. 150 years later, the UEDC had a fleet that could make the galaxy tremble. Admiral took a sip of his morning coffee and studied the distress call that had arrived 11 minutes ago. The translation software had decoded it instantly. He knew who they were: peaceful traders and philosophers who had refused to build weapons. He knew who they were: brutal predators who collected the skulls of their enemies as trophies. He knew exactly what was about to happen to those 3 refugee ships. "Analysis complete, Admiral," said the AI that ran the command center. Its name was Oracle, and it had been designed to process information faster than any organic mind could manage. "The vessels are carrying approximately 3,000 civilians. Their engines will fail completely in approximately 6 hours. The hunter-killer pack will intercept them in 4 hours. At current projections, there will be no survivors." Set down his coffee cup. "How many ships?" 7 hunter-killers, War Master-class vessels, heavily armed but slow by our standards. "And how fast can the second battle group reach them?" Oracle paused for exactly 1/10 of a second, which was an eternity for an AI. "The second battle group can be on station in 2 hours and 7 minutes, Admiral. However, I must note that this would involve revealing our true capabilities to alien observers. The diplomatic implications would be significant." Smiled. It was not a warm expression. "Oracle, what is the primary mission of the United Earth Defense Coalition?" "To protect humanity and its interests from all threats, foreign and domestic." "And what happens when predators like the learn that there are no consequences for hunting the innocent?" Oracle processed the question. "They become bolder, they attack more frequently. Eventually, they attack stronger targets." "Exactly." Stood up from his chair and walked to the central command console. "They are not our people, but today we are going to save them anyway. Do you know why?" "I believe you are about to tell me, Admiral." "Because the galaxy needs to learn something. They need to learn that there is a price for cruelty. They need to learn that someone is watching, someone who will not look away, someone who will make them pay." He began entering commands into the console. "And they need to learn that Earth is not what they think it is." The alerts went out across the hidden bases and secret shipyards of humanity's true military. Ships that had never been seen by alien eyes powered up their engines. Pilots who had trained in simulators, their entire lives finally got to fly for real. Weapons that existed only in classified files came online and armed themselves. The second battle group was one of 12 such formations. It consisted of 12 carriers, each one 5 kilometers long, each one capable of launching 500 fighters and bombers. At the center of the formation sat the dreadnought Indomitable, a ship so large that it had its own gravity, so powerful that it could crack a planet's crust if it wanted to. Admiral opened a channel to his fleet. His face appeared on screens across dozens of ships, and thousands of sailors and soldiers stopped what they were doing to listen. "This is Admiral. I know many of you have waited your entire careers for this moment. You have trained in secret. You have sacrificed in silence. You have watched the galaxy dismiss us as primitives while you built the most powerful military force in known space. Today, that changes." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We have received a distress call from 3 refugee ships. They are carrying 3,000 civilians, including children. They are being hunted by the Dominion, and no one else is coming to help them. In 4 hours, those people will be dead unless we do something about it." On every ship, sailors exchanged glances. This was it. This was what they had been waiting for. "I know what you are thinking. They are not our people. This is not our fight. But I ask you to remember something. Remember what we learned when we first looked at the stars. Remember what we saw in the Concord's records of fallen civilizations. Remember why we built this fleet in the first place." His voice hardened. "We built this fleet because the universe is full of predators, and we will not be their prey. But we also built it because we refuse to live in a galaxy where monsters hunt the innocent without consequence. Today, we are going to show what happens when they pick the wrong target. Today, we are going to save those refugees. And today, the galaxy is going to meet the real humanity." Smiled, and this time it was the smile of a wolf showing its teeth. "All ships prepare for fold space jump. Target coordinates are being transmitted now. We go in fast, we go in hard, and we do not stop until every ship is burning. Understood? The response came from every ship in the fleet, a single word spoken by thousands of voices. Understood. The engines powered up, reality bent, and the second battle group tore through space toward its destiny. Behind them, the secret was finally out. Humanity was done hiding. And the galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador did not believe the message from Earth. She could not afford to believe it. Hope was dangerous. Hope could make you lower your guard, stop planning, stop preparing for the worst. And the worst was definitely coming. The hunter-killers were visible on her sensors now, 7 dark shapes growing larger with every passing minute. They moved in a hunting formation, spread out like the fingers of a grasping hand. They were in no hurry. They knew their prey could not escape. Had spent the last 2 hours preparing her people for death. She had spoken to the families in the cargo holds, telling them to be brave. She had talked to the elders, asking them to lead the others in prayer. She had held the hands of children who did not understand why they had to leave their homes, why their parents were crying, why the adults kept looking at the screens with fear in their eyes. She had not told them about the message from Earth. What was the point? The humans were primitives, everyone knew that. Their fastest ships took years to travel between stars. They could not possibly arrive in time. The message had to be a mistake, or a cruel joke, or perhaps some kind of trick by themselves. But still, a small part of her hoped. She hated that part of herself. It would make the ending hurt so much more. Ambassador said, his voice shaking, "They are attempting to communicate." Straightened her spine. She would not let the monsters see her fear. Put them through. The main screen flickered and the face of it appeared. It was a nightmare made flesh. Black scales covered its head. Yellow eyes with slit pupils stared out with cold hunger. When it spoke, its mouth revealed rows of teeth designed for tearing meat from bone. "Vessel, this is War Master of the Dominion. You have been running for a long time. That ends now." Forced herself to speak calmly. "War Master, we are civilian refugees. We have no military value. We carry nothing of worth. Please let us pass." Laughed. It was an ugly sound like bones breaking. "Nothing of worth. Your skulls will make excellent trophies. Your children will make obedient slaves, and your fear will make the hunt worthwhile." He leaned closer to the screen. "Run if you want, it makes it more fun for us." The screen went dark. Looked at her with horror in his eyes. "Ambassador, what do we do?" Before could answer, every alarm on the ship began screaming at once. Warning lights flashed. Consoles sparked. The entire bridge shook as if struck by an invisible hand. "What is happening?" shouted over the noise. Was staring at his sensor display, his face pale. "I do not know. There is some kind of energy buildup directly ahead of us. The readings are off the scale. It is like nothing I have ever seen." Looked at the main and felt her breath catch in her throat. Space itself was tearing open. It was not like the gentle ripple of standard faster-than-light travel, which they had seen countless times. This was something else entirely. This was a wound in reality, a howling gap between here and somewhere else. Energy poured out of it in waves that made the ship shake. Light bent around its edges in impossible patterns. And through the wound came ships. They were nothing like the vessels knew. Conquered ships were elegant, curved, designed to look peaceful even when armed for war. These ships were different. They were angular and aggressive, covered in armor plating and weapons. They moved with a speed and precision that seemed impossible, as if they were not bound by the same laws of physics as everything else. First came the fighters, small and fast, pouring through the gap in swarms of hundreds. Then came larger vessels, cruisers and destroyers, taking positions with mechanical efficiency. Then came the carriers, enormous ships that dwarfed anything that had ever built, each one launching more fighters as it arrived. And then, at the center of the formation, came a ship so massive that its mind struggled to comprehend it. It was a mountain of metal and fire. It was bigger than some space stations. Weapons bristled across its surface like thorns on a poisonous plant. Its engines burned with a light brighter than stars. On its hull, letters in an alien script spelled out a name, UES Indomitable. "Ambassador," whispered, "I am reading over 1,200 vessels. Their energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. Their weapons systems are active, and they are taking up defensive positions around us." Could not speak, she could only stare. The communications console chimed. A new transmission was coming in, and this time it was not from the vessels. "This is Admiral of the United Earth Defense Coalition. I apologize for the dramatic entrance. Please proceed to the center of our formation. You are under our protection now." A human face appeared on the screen. It was an older male with hair and dark eyes. His expression was calm, almost relaxed, as if the arrival of over 1,000 warships was nothing unusual. "We will handle he continued. "Your people are safe." Finally found her voice. "Admiral, how is this possible? Your world is listed as pre-contact. You should not have this technology." Smiled. It was a strange smile, one that held secrets and old jokes that did not understand. "The Concord's records are a bit out of date, Ambassador. We have been preparing for this moment for a very long time." "Preparing for what?" "For the day when someone needed help and no one else was coming." His smile faded, replaced by something harder and colder. "Please move your ships to safety, Ambassador. What happens next is not going to be pretty." Behind the human fleet, the hunter-killers had stopped. Their hunting formation broke apart as they tried to understand what they were seeing. For the first time in memory, the hunters had become the hunted. War Master stared at his tactical display and felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. The humans were here, the primitives from the backwater world, the species that was not supposed to matter for another 200 years. And they had come with the largest fleet he had ever seen. Bared his teeth and activated his weapons. He did not run. He did not surrender. He would fight and he would win because they always won. That belief lasted approximately 90 more seconds. War Master had conquered worlds. He had burned cities. He had hunted 100 species across a dozen star systems. His trophy room contained the skulls of admirals and generals, diplomats and kings. The Dominion feared him, and those who did not belong to the Dominion feared him even more. He looked at the human fleet surrounding the refugees, and he felt his confidence waver for just a moment. The numbers were bad. The unknown technology was worse. Every instinct in his predator brain told him to run, to retreat, to find easier prey. But had not become War Master by running. He had become War Master by killing everyone who stood in his way. "All ships," he growled into his communicator, "attack formation. Target the largest enemy vessel. Once we destroy their flagship, the others will scatter." His subordinates did not question the order. Warriors followed commands without hesitation. That was what made them effective. That was what made them feared. The 7 hunter-killers arranged themselves into a spearhead formation and accelerated toward the human dreadnought. Their plasma cannons charged with deadly energy. Their missile tubes opened and prepared to fire. In seconds, they would unleash enough firepower to crack a moon. Admiral watched them come on his tactical display. His expression did not change. "Admiral," said his tactical officer, "they are committing to an attack run. All 7 vessels are targeting the Indomitable." "I see them." Took a sip of coffee. He had brought a thermos with him from the command center on Earth because good coffee was hard to find in space. "Let them get close." "Sorry." "They want to see what we can do. Let's give them a demonstration they will never forget." He set down his thermos and leaned forward. "All fighter wings, engage defensive pattern alpha, weapons free. Show them what humanity is made of." The order rippled through the fleet in milliseconds. 500 human fighters broke from their formations and surged toward the incoming ships. They moved in perfect coordination, each pilot knowing exactly where they were, each maneuver practiced thousands of times in simulators. The fired first. Plasma bolts streaked through space, bright and deadly, aimed at the oncoming swarm of small human vessels. They hit nothing. The human fighters danced through the barrage like water flowing around stones. They twisted and turned in ways that should have killed their pilots, pulling maneuvers that no species in the galaxy had ever seen before. The gunners could not track them. It was like trying to swat flies with a hammer. And then the humans fired back. The first hunter-killer exploded without warning. One moment it was there, firing its weapons, confident in its superiority. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of debris and fire. The human weapons had cut through its shields like they were not there. The armor that had stopped 1,000 enemy shots melted like ice in a furnace. What stared at his display? That is impossible, our shields should have. The second ship died. Then the third. The human fighters were everywhere now, too fast to track, too agile to hit. They swarmed around the vessels like angry insects, and every time they fired, a piece of a ship broke apart. Screamed orders at his remaining captains. Form up. Concentrate fire. Target the human carriers. Do something, anything to stop this slaughter. It did not help. The human cruisers joined the attack, adding their heavier weapons to the barrage. A fourth ship lost its engines and began spinning helplessly through space. A fifth tried to retreat and was run down by a squadron of human interceptors that caught it in seconds. 90 seconds after the battle began, only 2 ships remained, his flagship and one other. Watched his tactical display with growing horror. This was not a battle. This was an execution. The humans were not just winning. They were barely even trying. Their ships moved with casual efficiency, destroying his fleet the way a predator killed prey. And then he realized the truth. He realized why the humans had held back, why they had let him attack, why they had given him a chance to show what his ships could do. They wanted him to understand. They wanted him to see exactly how outmatched he was. They wanted him to feel the fear that his victims had felt so many times before. They wanted him to know that the hunters had finally met something that hunted them back. A human voice came through his communicator. War Master, this is Admiral. Your fleet is destroyed. Your remaining ship has lost weapons and engine capability. You are no longer a threat. Snarled at the screen. Then finish it, human. Kill me and be done with it. No, the human's voice was calm, almost gentle. Killing you would send the wrong message. I want you to live. I want you to go back to the Dominion and tell them what happened here. Tell them what? That you ambushed us, that you used tricks and... Tell them that Earth protects its own. His voice hardened. Tell them that we have been watching the galaxy for a long time. Tell them that we know about every species they have hunted, every world they have burned, every innocent life they have taken. And tell them that the next time they prey on the helpless, we will not stop at destroying their fleet. We will come for their worlds. We will come for their homes. We will make them pay for every drop of blood they have ever spilled. Felt cold. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what his victims had felt when his ships appeared above their worlds. He understood the helplessness, the terror, the knowledge that nothing he could do would change his fate. They are under our protection now, continued, and we are going to be expanding that protection to others. Any species that preys on the weak will answer to us. Any fleet that attacks civilians will face our guns. The galaxy has a new rule and you are going to help us spread it. The communication ended. Sat in his command chair, surrounded by the wreckage of his fleet, and tried to understand what had just happened. The primitives from Earth had appeared from nowhere with technology that should not exist. They had destroyed his squadron in less than 2 minutes, and they had let him live, not out of mercy, but because they wanted him to be afraid. They wanted to know that someone was watching. He thought about his trophy room, filled with the skulls of those who had begged for mercy. He thought about the worlds he had burned, the refugees he had hunted, the children he had sold into slavery. And he wondered, for the first time in his long and bloody life, what it felt like to be the prey. The answer came to him as the human fleet formed up around the ships and began escorting them away. The answer was cold and simple and terrifying. It felt like the end of everything he knew. The humans were here now, the primitives who should not have mattered, the species that the galaxy had ignored. And they were just getting started. The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Indomitable. Ambassador had watched those same stars her entire life, first from her, then from diplomatic vessels, and finally from the refugee ships that carried her people through the void. But they had never looked like this before. They had never looked hopeful. 3 days had passed since the battle. 3 days since the human fleet had appeared from nowhere and destroyed the hunters in less than 2 minutes. 3 days since everything thought she knew about the universe had been proven wrong. The refugees had been brought aboard the human ships. They had been given food, medicine, warm beds, and gentle words. Doctors who did not speak their language used translation devices to ask about injuries and offer treatment. Soldiers who looked like warriors smiled at children and gave them toys. Everyone was kind. Everyone wanted to help. Did not understand. The Galactic Concord had taught her that primitive species were dangerous, unpredictable, prone to violence. Earth was supposed to be full of savages who fought each other over scraps of land. The humans were supposed to be centuries away from being ready for contact with the civilized galaxy. Instead, they had the most advanced technology had ever seen. Instead, they had come to save strangers they had never met. Instead, they were offering the survivors a new home on their own planet. The door behind her opened, and Admiral walked in. He was carrying 2 cups of something hot. The steam rose in curling patterns that caught the starlight. "It's called coffee," he said, offering her one of the cups. "It is a human drink. I thought you might like to try it." Took the cup carefully. The liquid inside was dark brown and smelled strange but not unpleasant. She took a small sip and felt warmth spread through her body. It was bitter but somehow comforting. "Thank you," she said. Nodded and stood beside her at the viewport. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars drift past, 2 beings from different worlds sharing a moment of peace. Finally, asked the question that had been burning in her mind since the battle. "Why?" "Why what?" "Why did you come?" She turned to face him. "They are strangers to you. We have never met. We have no treaties, no agreements, no reason for you to risk your ships and your people to save us. Why did you do it?" Considered the question. He took a long sip of his coffee before answering. "When we first learned that we were not alone in the universe," he said slowly, "we were afraid. We intercepted communications from the Galactic Concord. We learned about the species out there, the empires, the alliances, the predators. We saw how the strong treated the weak. We saw what happened to civilizations that could not defend themselves." He paused, looking out at the endless darkness between the stars. "We could have hidden forever. We could have stayed on our little planet, pretending to be primitive, hoping that no one would notice us until we were ready. But that felt wrong. It felt like cowardice. And we asked ourselves a question that changed everything." "What question?" "What kind of people do we want to be?" Turned to face her, and his eyes were full of something could not name. "We could be like the preying on the weak because we had the power to do it. We could be like the conquered, making speeches about peace while doing nothing to protect the innocent. Or we could be something else, something better." He set down his coffee cup on the railing. There is an old human story about a powerful being who comes to a new world. Everyone expects this being to use its power for conquest, for glory, for revenge. But instead, it uses that power to help others, to protect them, to make the world a better place. Thought about this? That sounds like a children's story. Maybe it is, smiled. But children's stories often contain the truths that adults forget. The strong do not prove their strength by crushing the weak. That is not strength. That is cruelty. Real strength is choosing to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Real power is using what you have to make things better for everyone. He gestured at the fleet surrounding them, at the ships that had crossed impossible distances to save strangers they had never met. Humanity spent a long time learning this lesson. We made mistakes. We hurt each other. We did terrible things in the name of power and glory and fear. But eventually, we understood. We understood that the only strength worth having is the strength to help others. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She thought about her burning. She thought about the Concorde's empty promises. She thought about running through space, waiting to die, believing that no one would come. And then the humans had come. The primitives, the savages, the species that was not supposed to matter. What happens now? She asked. Picked up his coffee again and took another sip. Now we offer your people a home on Earth. We have prepared settlements for you. You will have land, resources, everything you need to rebuild your civilization. And you will have our protection for as long as you want it. And the Dominion will not forgive this. They will come for revenge. Let them come. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. The second battle group is one of 12, and the battle groups are just the beginning. We have been building for a very long time, Ambassador. We are ready for whatever the galaxy wants to throw at us. He turned to face the viewport again, looking out at the stars that stretched into infinity. But we hope it does not come to that. We hope that species like the will see what happened here and think twice before hunting the innocent. We hope that the galaxy will learn a new rule, not the old rule where the strong take and the weak suffer. A new rule where everyone looks out for each other, where no one has to face the darkness alone. Joined him at the viewport. Somewhere out there, the War Master was returning to his people with a story that would change everything. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Concorde was receiving reports that would shatter their understanding of humanity. And somewhere out there, other species were waiting, hopping, praying for someone to save them. Do you really believe you can change the galaxy? She asked. Smiled. It was a warm smile this time, full of hope and determination and something that might have been faith. I believe that we have to try, he said. I believe that if we do not stand for something, we stand for nothing, and I believe that humanity has been hiding for too long. He looked at her and his eyes were bright. The galaxy thinks they know what we are. They think we are primitives and savages. They think we do not matter, but they are wrong. We are protectors. We are guardians. We are the answer to every distress call, the shield for every refugee, the sword against every tyrant. He raised his coffee cup in a small salute. The galaxy is about to meet the real humanity, Ambassador, and I promise you, things are going to change. Looked out at the stars one more time. Behind them, the human fleet moved in perfect formation, a promise and a warning written in steel and fire. Ahead of them, Earth waited, a small blue world that had somehow produced the most powerful force the galaxy had ever seen. And for the first time since her burn, Ambassador Valshen allowed herself to believe in the future. The humans had answered the call. And they were just getting started.